to another episode of Throne Winning Back with Sean Farrell. I am Sean Farrell. God is great all the time. All the time, God is great. Jesus Christ died and he rose again. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, I'm going to try to be a little bit more quicker than usual. So I was watching something on the Rick Pitino era, okay, and discovered some interesting facts. It's like you always learn something new. You always learn something new that you didn't know before, okay. And so Rick Pitino came to the Boston Celtics in 1997 after they went 15-67. Rick Pitino said he was going to restore Celtic pride, okay, but it quickly became Celtic chaos, okay, just like it was for the past couple of seasons. When he came to the Celtics, he was named coach, GM, and president, okay. Yeah, so he was taking on three roles: coach, GM, and president. Yikes. So the chaos started right away. And I remember Rick Fox saying Rick Pitino was one of the coaches he glad he didn't play for. Okay. And Rick Fox said Rick Pitino's style, he felt Rick Pitino's style just didn't fit the pros. Okay. So he got rid of everybody on that team except for Antoine Walker, Dana Bejeros, and I believe Purvis Ellison was still there at that time, okay? Yeah, so one of the couple of early moves that he made was he signed Travis Knight, okay? Travis Knight, okay? He was rookie with the Lakers the year before. And he signed Travis Knight to a 7-year, $22 million deal. $7 million, $22 million deal. And he averaged about 4 points and I believe 4 rebounds his rookie season with the Lakers. Okay. Kind of reminds you of the time the Sonics signed Jim McElvain to a big time contract, but they didn't sign Sean Kemp to a big time contract. Okay. Yeah. 4 points and 4 rebounds. Travis Knight, after the season, went back to the Lakers. Okay, yeah, he went back to the Lakers. Okay, and Travis Knight said, Travis Knight's own words, he sold his soul to the devil, signing with the Celtics for money. Okay, that was Travis Knight's own words. He got traded back to the Lakers for the lockout season, and he was on the championship team that won it all in 2000. The Lakers championship team in 2002. Okay. So back to Pitino. He had taken the job with the expectation that they were going to get the #1 pick and get Tim Duncan. Okay. Again, the Celtics had finished 15-67 the previous year, and the Celtics had like the best odds to get the #1 pick. Okay. So Pitino came to the Celtics thinking he was going to get the #1 pick and get Tim Duncan. Well, he should have taken a lesson from the 1993 draft lottery, okay? When Orlando, who selected Shaq the year before, had only one ping pong ball in the 1993 draft lottery. So they only had like a 1% chance of getting the first pick, okay? And they had one ball, and that one ball, made it through. Okay, so Orlando got the number one pick over teams who had teams who had worse records in 1993. Orlando was 41-41. Okay, that year, but they ended up getting the number one pick. So Rick Pitino could have done his research first on that. It's not a guarantee that you get the number one pick based on your record. Okay, so instead they got the third and sixth picks. Okay, which they used on Chauncey Billups and Ron Mercer. Okay. They already had Antoine Walker there, but he drafted Ron Mercer, Kentucky, traded for Walter McCarty, Kentucky. Antoine Walker was there the year before. He was from Kentucky. And I'm going to get to another Kentucky guy he signed in a minute, which is kind of baffling. But he also tried to trade for Scottie Pippen, too. Yeah, Rick Pitino tried to trade for Scottie Pippen. But the Bulls wanted Antoine Walker in return. Not only did the Bulls want Antoine Walker, but they also wanted the third and sixth picks, too. And that's when and that was a little bit too much for Rick Pitino. But word is Jerry Reinsdorf said, hell no. Okay. And you knew Michael wasn't going to allow that trade to go through. Okay. You know good damn well Michael was not going to allow that trade to go through. Michael would have had something to say about that trade, right? Yeah, so so they bring in Billups, Mercer, along with Antoine Walker, Walter McCarty. D Brown was the last holdover from the Bird McHale Parrish era. Okay. So Pitino makes all these changes. Basically demotes Red Auerbach. Okay. So they win their first game against the Bulls, 92-85. Okay. And the Celtics full court press. They were going to do that for 82 games. Okay. Which works in college, but not in the pros. Okay. Again, Rick Fox. To me, I just don't think his style ever fit the pros. Okay. So that full court trap worked in the first game of the season versus the Bulls, which they won 92-85. Okay. And I remember tweeting about this on X. Rick Pitino's first game was against the defending champion Bulls, which they won 92-85. And I commented, I said, that was the high water mark of the Rick Pitino era. After that, nothing had happened. and nothing had happened after that. They beat the Bulls 92-85, first game of Rick Pitino's coaching tenure in Boston. And nothing had happened after that. Nothing had happened after that. Okay? That was a high water mark of the Rick Pitino era. Beating the Chicago Bulls, the defending champions. Nothing good had happened after that. It was said that Tracy McGrady tanked his interview with the Boston Celtics, okay? And he said that Rick Pitino put him through one of his toughest pre-draft workouts he ever had. And he said Rick Pitino was just way too tough, okay? Way too tough. Reminds me of when Isaiah Thomas wanted to drop in the draft back in 1981. He wanted to go to Chicago, okay? And he said every question Jack McCloskey asked him, he intentionally answered it wrong. And Jack McCloskey stopped him and said, listen, I don't care what you do in this interview. If you're there at number 2, we are taking you. So Isaiah Thomas couldn't drop in the draft so he could go to Chicago, right? So there was also this Kentucky guy's narrative around Rick Pitino. I just said he bought in, drafted Ron Mercer, bought in Walter McCarty. So midway through the season, they were on a road trip. They didn't play in Sacramento. D. Brown and Chauncey Billups didn't play in Sacramento. So they had a road game in Vancouver a few days later. And D. Brown found a note under his door, under his hotel door, saying, "Don't come to the bus, he's been traded." That's how D. Brown found out he was traded from the Celtics. Okay? Right? And so Chauncey Billups too, traded Chauncey Billups, who I'm not gonna make a joke on Chauncey. I'm not gonna make a joke on Chauncey Billups. Okay, I ain't gonna do that. Okay, so D. Brown and Chauncey Billups got traded mid-season to Toronto Raptors for Kenny Anderson and Popeye Jones. Okay, and so yeah, so the Kentucky guys narrative. The Celtics had a guy by the name of Reggie Hansen. Okay, they had a guy by the name of Reggie Hansen who played for Pitino at Kentucky in the late 80s to early 90s. Okay. And Reggie Hansen didn't play in the NBA up until 1998. Okay. He hadn't played college basketball since the early 90s. Okay. But he bought him in. Rick Pitino bought him in. And I immediately knew who he was. Okay. Because he's in NBA Live 99. Okay. Reggie Hansen is in NBA Live 99. Okay. So Reggie Hansen was signed on March 25th, 1998. He played a total of 8 games, 26 minutes, scored 6 points, and had 6 rebounds. Okay. The Celtics finished 36 and 46. They draft Paul Pierce. They finished 19 and 31 in the lockout season. They finished 35 and 47 in 2000. Okay. And then this is the shot. This is what caused that famous rant by Rick Pitino. That Parrish, Bird, and McHale isn't walking through that door. This is what caused it right here. Damn it. Okay. This is what caused the famous rant by Rick Pitino.
McGrady looking. Loops it in. Carter's going to get a shot off. He does. Got it! Vince Carter wins the game.
Get it down, out to the half court. Instead, they let it get down the sideline. And there's Adrian. Was right there with him, but Carter extended over the top of Adrian. There it is from another angle.
The stuff that legends are made of.
Yep. Big time shot. Puts it in their column.
Yeah, Vince Carter hitting a 3 at the end of the game calls this rant by Rick Pitino right here.
On a 3-pointer by Toronto's Vince Carter. The Celtics are 12 games under 500 this season, 4.5 games out of the final playoff spot in the East. After that loss, Coach Rick Pitino had a passionate response when asked by a reporter how he would keep his players positive.
Larry Bird's not walking through that door, fans. Kevin McHale's not walking through that door. Robert Parrish is not walking through that door. And if he expect them to walk through the door, they're going to be gray and old. What we are is young, exciting, hardworking, and going to improve. People don't realize that. And as soon as they realize that those three guys are not coming through that door, the better this town will be for all of us. Because they're young guys in that room playing their off. I wish we had $90 million under the salary cap. Wish we could buy the world. We can't. The only thing we can do is work hard.
Yep. So, Larry Bird ain't walking through that door. Robert Parrish not walking through the door. Kimberly Kel's not walking through the door. And if they are, they're going to be old and gray. Okay? And to compound matters, okay? To compound matters, they didn't have a first-round pick in the 1999 draft, okay? Because they traded that first-round pick to the Cleveland Cavaliers for, I can't pronounce that first name, Vitaly Potapenko. Okay, they traded that first round pick to Cleveland for Potapenko. And they didn't have a first round draft pick in the 1999 draft, which the Cavaliers used to select Andre Miller. Okay. Because Rick Pitino kept talking about he wanted a pure point guard. Okay. That's why he traded Chauncey Billups. He wasn't a pure enough point guard. Right? Well, you had your chance to draft one. And Andre Miller, you traded that pick. And finally, on January 8th, 2001, the Celtics were 12-22. He resigned. Rick Pitino resigned. Okay. And Jim O'Brien took over. And yeah. Rest is history. Okay. So in 98, 99, 2000, in 3.5 seasons coaching the Celtics, he was 102-146. Rick Pitino. The high water mark of the Pitino era, beating Jordan and the Bulls on opening day. And then that was it. Nothing happened after that. Right? All right, that's it. That's all for the Sean Farrell podcast. I am out of here. Peace out. May God bless you all. Enjoy Thanksgiving with your family.